call it narcissism at its best, but please call it fun.
We've all been hexed by Mother Hicks.
It's just like it was in 1925.
But in 1925, they all died.
Day 6, Saturday.
The girl's going to the hospital, and she is going today.
The doctor says she's better off here at home.
But she's delirious. This morning she woke up screaming something about witchcraft.
Day 7, the second 7.
I swear that I could give everything to witch doctor. Everything.
I've got these headaches.
Everything. She's got pneumonia. Everything.
They all die.
Everything. Everything that puts my 2 hands to the ways of witchcraft, and I swear to do anything the witch power asks of me.
done doing 2 quarter notes. 5 pow. Can we have the first one with a cap on like that? 5 pow. I want it short.
Oh, and that's a fall?
Yeah. Is it written funny?
Well, they write their falls and they write their quarter rests.
Okay. Yeah, I understood. 5 pow.
There's something about showing people how to do something. And it doesn't really make any difference to me who the people are or how old they are or the rest of it about them. Once you get to the level where there's a discovery process, it's incredibly enjoyable. When you become a part of that discovery process, all of a sudden teaching is the only occupation that's really worth doing because you really do make a difference, and it's a big difference. It's close, it's daily, it's never boring, often frustrating, but it really does become an obsession. or the tuba or whatever the instrument is for my student is a vehicle just to express and get through life a little bit easier. And so a lot of my studio teaching centers around that, but there's a much deeper teaching that goes on through the instrument. I think the orchestra is wonderful. I think Dave Holland's string orchestra is. Dave Holland is the heaviest. That's one thing I wouldn't miss. I don't miss string orchestra concerts. To hear what he does with strings is. That's what I'm talking about, where you really get a chance to learn from your colleagues. It's tremendous, and the support thing with those faculty is really special too.
Teaching is respect for a process, a learning process, and to understand that myself and have it apply directly to my life and career is very fulfilling for me, and to then impart that respect for process to an adolescent who then can go away being able to use that forever. That's a real benefit for me.
1, 2, 小门再找个地方。Here we go. 5 before L. Here we go. Bingo. 1, 2. That's why we're doing it. That's why we're starting there. It's never felt good. And you wait for the next one. 5 before F.
D as in dandy. Just sing the first chord. Enjoy it, and you can smile.
You stole my love, 595. You stole my love, 595.
When you carry the word love, you stole my love, 595. So you stole my love, 5. A little bit longer. All right, here we are. Memorize it.
You stole my love, 595. You stole my love. You stole my love, bye-bye. Guess you were born ready to disapprove you, for your love would die.
There's a real sense of systematic, progressive education of all the important basic elements in a fundamental way. As opposed to trying to make a student look as slick as possible in a given period of time. There's a real commitment to foundation within my department that I think is absolutely incredible.
Right. Keep all your half steps. You have a raise, 7. Keep all your half steps in the same position.
At home, I learned a lot about musicality and the feeling, playing with feeling and everything. And here, I learned a lot more about the technique, which sometimes bothers me a little bit, but they have to be evened out. And I've learned a lot about my positioning, and it's improved a lot here, and I think that's just as important.
Even more than I respect the musicians, I respect like Mozart and Beethoven. Just I think those people are just amazing, incredible. Just up there with Charlie Parker, obviously.
People that enjoy music primarily, but way back, are really excited by sounds, just like I can imagine some people being incredibly turned on by colors and shapes to the extent that they don't want to do anything else but pursue the construction or the research of those colors and shapes.
The way I developed the department, trying to branch it out into different aspects of visual art and not trying to separate the crafts, ceramics, metalsmithing, weaving, from the so-called fine arts of painting and sculpture.
Does anybody have any orange paint?
I did all these things because these were the things that I wanted when I was a high schooler. Actually, when I was in grade school, I wanted these things. And so I was deprived of all of them because education at that stage wasn't too interested in teaching any of the visual arts. And so when I had this opportunity, I made up my mind I was going to make the most of it and go for broke and try and get as high a standard with as much diversification as possible.
And you want your colors to interact with each other. Get a green that works nice with yellow and lock out. And looking at your red, it looks like you're going to need a lighter one. This is a real heavy color. It's a real light. Okay? That's your middleweight. That's closer to the green.
Many institutions go all academic or all the other way, you know, all intuition. And I know with myself, in developing the program, I was trying to keep this very hairline balance between the two, because you're trying to nurture the entire individual, because the visual artist has to be an entire individual to be perceptive enough to get a pulse of a society in the future.
Such simple things to love.
Like a new rag doll. The soles of your feet.
Wings of white birds flying away.
Ripe fruit in a breeze.
Such simple things to love.
Like the shiny back of a June bug.
Like the sound of a heartbeat.
Hooves beating against the ice.
A single strand beneath the nape.
The patterns emerging from a child's dreams.
Such simple things to love.
Being an artist is mostly about wanting to be better and separate and more godlike than the rest of the population. I mean, who would decide to be an artist? How many people does it entertain? Who does it help? How likely is it there will be huge rewards? It's about romanticizing yourself, about hoping you're the one.
I don't know, I would just say read lots. I mean, you can't be, the bottom line is you can't write unless you read. You just have to keep reading.
The heart is a plow no woman can claim only for her fields.
The heart is a plow no woman can claim only for her fields. I like teaching. I like being with the kids a lot. That's a lot of fun for me. But finally, I just want to write. I just don't have the courage to say I'm gonna be done and I'm just gonna write. Someday, maybe. Instead of speaking, we might send out birds instead of language. watch them dance and lift ecstatic on the air, better than any phrases we could speak. The doves of speech conjugating again and again in the vapor rising from our bodies.
That's the wonderful moment of a poem when you discover what it is you have known all along but have never been able to articulate. And all of a sudden the poem says it so well. And you step back and you say, my God, I've known that all these years, but I've never been able to say it. And there it is.
Poetry is something else. Life seems wasteful next to it. And God knows I wasted a lot of my life.
When I was 9,
When I was 12,
when I step out from the space behind my eyes, I think about my mother.
Our mother, the Heavenly Father.
he told me church would save me,
He tells me this at night.
With his hands stretched up over his head.
and I hate him.
Last night,
In my dream tonight,
I shift through this darkness,
Down into the blackness of the lake,
Into the holy waters.
over and over again.
Snow fell and things started to die.
and when it snows,
I see nothing but black.
and the taste always reminds me of places that I've never been. We've all moved away from home,
Left school, ran away.
Following those dim lines.
at the sea's edge.
She cries out to the shoreline.
Maybe to give some of the life he never had.
Maybe lost in all this white.
In stimulating people, in exposing them to things that are already inside of them, but they don't know how to verbalize or they don't know how to express. I get a lot of fulfillment from that. Because it's dance, it's even taps into another level altogether. The basic rhythm of life.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
1 and 2, turn a 3 and a 4.
Being a choreographer is different than being a painter or a writer, because your tools are right there in front of you. Your paints are there. They're not going to break their toe or whatever, and you can't use blue today because blue's has a bad day. So you're totally dependent on other people, and so in that sense sometimes it's not as fulfilling because these kids do have so much to do and they are under stress a lot. Welcome to the real world. You can't always get everything done that you want to get done.
Yeah!
I would like to see there be more emphasis placed on interdisciplinary programs, so that the dancer is taking more acting classes, voice classes, the actors taking dance class, so that they could go out and get jobs. Because after all, that's what it's all about. You could be the most wonderful artist in the world, but if you can't make a living at it, then it becomes a hobby, or your downfall.
There's an inner feeling with dancing and music and movement that I get, and it's my natural high, in a sense. I love to move and I love to express myself to other people and perform and get out there and really let them get enjoyment out of this movement and really get across what I want to say to them. And I love it.
because I want to see myself as I think of myself, or what I really am. And the difficulty of somebody else telling you what you are means that's a bit more objective, perhaps. It is not eliminating that which you want to discard. When you describe yourself, you put in what you want. Even though there's a great deal that's behind it, you can be selective. When somebody else looks at you and identifies you, they are not selective from your criteria. And it gets a little scary, because then you're exposed. And that's what he's dealing with here. Life is absolutely free, see, according to Sartre. At liberty, freedom, you're born with that, born with nothing else but absolute freedom. And every choice you make then creates your being. And obviously you're responsible for every choice you make, as this essence that you're creating shapes itself.
I have students an hour a day, and I find that they do just as much work for me as I'm sure they would do if they were going to any other school. In terms of equal emphasis, no, I would expect them to devote first their energy to the art for which they're coming to this specific school. That's part of the philosophy which I think any teacher needs to accept or understand, and I do too. And we don't expect any less of them because of that, but if it comes down to a situation, I need to do this or this, I surely understand if my class is not the first choice, because they are not obligated, but certainly emotionally obligated to choose the art. And I believe that.
The academics are like really advanced. I mean, I seriously have never studied so hard since I came here. And now I'm like, oh my God, what is public school actually doing to students? I mean, to come out of public school and to come into this was a shock to my system.
All right, this is kick to subway.
Oh, this is awesome.
Got it?
When I was really little, I wanted to be a shepherdess. And I used to dress up as one and walk around in the mountains.
Are you hurting?
And I guess I kind of started it off, too, though, because I really thought I was a shepherdess. You know, this was my calling. And somewhere along the way, it got transformed into theater. My mother's an actress, and so I see she has so much fun that I can't imagine being anything else.
All right, we want to take it from Venice exit.
Well, if I work with Carter, who is one of the teachers, he has kind of a funny way of directing. He doesn't really want us to make decisions right away. We do the opposite of what we're going to end up doing from the very beginning, and then we just work through it until we make choices and more decisions, and then finally we come up with the product of the character that we're doing. So it's just a whole bunch of different steps.
Well, I've got something to say to him. What's your name? My name is Judge Gaffney. Now, where's Chum? The reason I asked is Dr. always likes to know who he's talking to.
Okay, let's take it again, Jeff, and instead of crossing up stage, cross down stage, turn down stage, and then cross up, so we can see that face of yours. So, yeah, that's it. Sure, you can do that. You can get to the same place, but just do it crossing down stage. It's more interesting.
Make the discovery, Izzy, that he's stealing it. You knew too much when you walked through the door.
Miss Briggs, I'm gonna come.
Give it to Tuck. Tuck, put it in your mouth. The licorice whip. Oh, I forgot. This isn't a comedy, right? But that works.
Okay.
Okay, but don't do it immediately, because then that's comedy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, give it to me, pay me, and then I'll eat it.
Pay him. When she turns around, you eat it. Or break it in half and give half to Ricky.
Okay.
You're kids, you know? You're just like you are.
All theater majors have this intense desire to perform and to get out there and do things in front of people, to express themselves in that way. I really like to do that. It gives me a chance to express myself, and I like to express myself that way, and putting my feelings into another person, into other words.
And the worst thing you can do is be wrong.
There is no right or wrong.
That's the thing.
It's just a matter of whether you discover it or not, or you make a choice.
I think I'd be happy anywhere as long as I was doing theater. When I first came here, I did want to be the typical fame thing. But I think right now I'd be happy in Winston-Salem Little Theater. You know, I think that...
As long as I'm always doing theater,
yeah.
I'll be happy.
All of you will find yourself at some point in your life, if you haven't already, with a set of circumstances not of your own making that are larger than you are, and your world seems to be coming apart, and the worst of your fears seems to be coming true, and your worst nightmares are being realized, and you look around and the things you love the most, perhaps the people you love the most, are departing in one way or another. Your life is unscrambled. It's just coming undone, and here you stand in the middle of a crisis of immense proportions that you did not make. And how do you deal with those things? How do you learn to live through them? What kinds of actions do you take? And Lincoln's actions in the pre-war period are a classic example of a wholly decent human spirit prevailing. I cannot imagine life without teaching. I have been teaching for a long time, and I think of it as what I do. As I hunt and I fish and think and read and speculate about ideas, I also teach. I enjoy watching people struggle with problems and coming to resolutions, and teaching sort of represents that to me. I can't imagine not teaching.
I feel that Interlochen ought to trumpet itself more as an academic preparatory school, because it just is that. It attracts that kind of kids. We're trying to train musicians, and we're trying to train dancers, and we're trying to train visual artists and writers, but we're also trying to train young people to be better older people. We're after somebody who can have a little grace. Teach them a little grace. Teach them commitment.
The Interlochen Review, and I just read poem after poem of quietness and the otter and the brooks babbling and the sunsets and the snows and the isolation and the pine trees and that, I know that it's having a profound effect on students.
Rooted here. There's a part of me that will never leave here, and I think it's going to be a very prominent experience throughout my life that I'm always going to refer back to.
the environment is critical to what Interlochen's all about. That peaceful, very contemplative rural surrounding. It for a lot of artists here, it gives them food. It provides an actual source of inspiration, I think, and it makes it a great place to come back to. I think people who've been here have this landscape emblazoned in their memories, and when they come back, they feel better. I know people who have a feeling when they come back here that they don't ever feel any other time in their lives.
I think of Interlochen, I think of the cafeteria, I think of the people that I see there and the food, the neon gravy on my potatoes.
When you're living out here with just your own age people, and you're still a real growing time, I think everyone gets real lonely, you know. They bond to people, and I think it does become a family. I think people make of a family, whether it's blood or not, they'll make it into a family just because that's the way people are. They want to have other people to be with.
We do watch each other and we do care for each other. We do trust each other, and those are all qualities that families represent. I think you do acquire an identity here, if that's the same thing as family.
compromises. All great spirits come to terms with the daily realities of taxes and rents. Take this time now for poetry and art. The rest will come as a matter of course, and probably easier because of the magic door to greater things that always opens for you. Interlochen may be located in not more than a wide spot in the road, but we all know it's a lot more important than that. I think of it probably as a place described in that verse that talks about two roads diverging and you took the one less traveled by. Interlochen is the crossroads of your aesthetic life. Fill your mind with whatsoever is true, beautiful, lovely, and of good report. If there is anything worth thinking about, think on those things. Class of 1987, we love you. Today, tomorrow, and forever. And I hope that you can join with me in saying Interlochen.